Thank you.
Gorgeous. How's she feeling?
I had nothing to do with it.
Beautiful.
Except for the Tzipora, which is after my grandma.
Oh, how nice.
Not my mum's mum, my father's mum.
Oh, how nice.
Because her Hebrew name was Fagi, so no Fagis. But Tzipora is a good...
That could be Tzipora.
Okay, I'm going to just go on to silent.
And Emma Titchachi on the glasses.
Do you know how old these glasses are?
Oh, really? I haven't seen them.
So nice.
Yeah.
Just warning everybody, I've started the recording on YouTube so that we don't miss any of them.
I'm coming to bring her up.
So, yeah.
I would just like to point out that it was the optometrist who noticed Emma's glasses.
I was wrong on the fact that they were not new.
Now everybody's gone quiet because I put Mindy. I'm making you co-host, Mindy. Okay. So when we start, you should be able to share your screen.
And how do I start? Like, how do I start the co-hosting?
You are I've made you co-host.
So where do I see that?
In participants, you can see. It says Mindy Eisner co-host. So when it comes to share screen, you should be able to share your screen. Okay. We'll just wait another couple of minutes in case anybody else wants to come on, so they don't miss the beginning.
Just tell me again, where do I see the co-host?
It doesn't really matter. I'm just telling you, your co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, I see share screen now.
Okay. Okay, so you know what, I'm going to, we'll start. It's a good turnout. So Mindy and I were having a conversation about topics for the Zoom Cafe. And she said that quite often women turn to her with questions about their finances. They're not sure where to start, how to organize them best, or they suddenly find themselves organizing their own finances for whatever reason. And we were talking about how important it is to educate our daughters and ourselves about how to look after our finances. And so the idea of Mindy presenting today came up. And so Mindy, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thanks, Zara and Emma, for organizing these lovely cafe meetings. It's really fun. It's really a pleasure and informative. So I've enjoyed some of them. And Bemet Yishakwa. Okay, 1 second. Okay, now do you see, Rochelle? Oh, you're letting Rochelle in? Hi, Rochelle.
Don't you worry about letting people in. I'll deal with that. You just do your thing.
So do you see on your screen a big slide that says why women need to understand their finances?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you don't see any kishkushim around them, right? You just see this slide. Good, because I see the kishkushim because I've got 2 monitors, so it's great. It's really fun. Okay. So my name is Mindy Eisner. I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I came on Aliyah in 1982. And around 17 years ago, I volunteered to become a debt counselor, and I was helping families in Ra'anana and Kfar Saba who were between 100,000 and 1 million shekels in debt.
Wow.
Yeah, so this was called Irgun Pamonim, and I also recruited a bunch of other people and volunteers to do this as well. I just want to, okay. And the people that I was helping to get out of debt, they're not people that are like in the gutter or homeless or in the Tachana Merkazit in Tel Aviv, but they're people that we know. There are teachers in the schools and rabbis and dentists and people that worked at Amdocs and people that had businesses on Rehov Achuza and psychologists. Like they were just from all typical walks of life, and they were very deep in debt. And I realized that this is a problem that really permeates society, but it's sort of under the carpet. And
thank you, Susie.
And it's not something that's exposed, and you don't always know that someone's in trouble. So after doing this for 2.5 years, I started realizing that there's patterns and there's mistakes that kept repeating themselves over and over again on what people did wrong and how they got into debt. So I put all these insights together, and I made a curriculum to teach young people how not to get into debt. And I set up an organization called Chaim B'Plus. And we, on the basis of all the mistakes that people make, we teach the kids not to do those things. And so that when they get older, they will be able to enjoy a financially independent life. And since 2006, we've had over 15,000 students. They're high school students and post-high school in 60 locations around Israel, including Bedouins, Arabs, Haredim, and all segments of Israeli schools. So, so now getting back to what were the mistakes that people made in order to get into financial trouble. So I'll just tell you some of the things that that occur. The first culprit is the overdraft, which people they think it's just part of life, but really they're paying a high interest rate on it, and thousands of shekels a year just on the interest. When they exceed their overdraft level, they then take out loans. Loans are very advertised in Israel. A lot of people don't check how much they're going to earn in their profession. So like I met people like who would come up to me and say, I studied social work for 5 years and I didn't realize like how much I was going to get paid until I got my first salary slip. But you know, you really should check these things out before you sign up for to study in a certain profession. Another thing is smachot, going over the top with weddings, britot, bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. There's a lot of social pressure to impress people, and people go into debt to make their smachot. Another problem is people giving a lot of money to their adult children, which we're going to talk about later in this program. And I want to focus especially on women and finance. This is a very interesting broad topic. I have a lot of books about it, and Oprah Winfrey and Susie Orman deal with this a lot in the States. Even though there is women's equality, but women's equality hasn't totally been
finished. Okay, thank you very much. Wait.
Should I keep on going?
Yes.
Women's equality is still not completely expressed by the women themselves. There isn't total self-emancipation. A lot of women are still like relying on their husband to save them, like a Cinderella type of attitude. The man is going to take care of the finances. He's going to worry about everything. And there's all
Mindy, you're muted.
Mindy, stop. I muted everybody. Go back 2 seconds and unmute yourself. Okay?
Just a minute. So should I go backtrack or keep on going?
Yeah, backtrack a couple of sentences.
Okay, so I'll just say the main problems that I found with people in debt in Ra'anana, Kfar Saba: overdraft, taking loans, going into profession without checking out how much it gets paid, not tracking your bank statement. For example, someone came up to me in shul and they told me that for 5 years, they were paying double tuition at their son's Hesder Yeshiva because someone else at the yeshiva had twins with the same family name. And so her Horat Keva was being deducted double every month instead of the twins' bank account because she never checked. It's a lot of money over 5 years. So not checking your accounts, making smachot that are over the top and not within the person's means, social pressure. Another thing is bad business deals. There's a lot of people that try out certain businesses and they don't really have the skills or the ability to make profit out of it. And that was another huge problem that got people into debt, going into businesses when they really didn't know what they were doing. And so my goal is to teach people how to be financially secure and independent, and especially women who often will still tend to maybe leave it to their husband or hope that it's going to be somehow taken care of, and the someone else should really be us ourselves. So today I want to ask you 3 questions and to see how you're going on your ability to manage your finances. And as you answer these questions, I'm going to lead you through 3 action items that you can do in order to benefit yourself and your family. So here we go. One second. Okay, the first question I want to ask you is, do you know where your money is? Okay. This I want to put on the grid so I can see everyone's faces of how they're answering this question. This is really fun. Okay. Do you know where your money is? Now, when I say your money, I don't mean like in this picture where there's a stash of dollar bills in a suitcase. What I mean by money is that your money is in all different places, okay? You've got it in the bank, but you've got pension funds, you've got savings plans, investments, Keren Hishtalmut, maybe you have accounts in Chutz La'aretz, you might have cash in your house. There's all kinds of ways that you can have money. So all your assets, properties, investments, savings plans, pension funds, do you know where they all are? And also, do you know how much you're worth? Do you know what your situation is? Do you know how much money you've got? So if someone, I'm not going to like ask you personally, but if you are not sure where all your money is, then this is your action. Oh, sorry. Then this is your action item that I would recommend to you. The action item is to make a spreadsheet, and I call it the Bechol Eit Iyu Begadecha Levanim spreadsheet. Now, do you know this pasuk in Kohelet Perek Tet? Bechol Eit Iyu Begadecha Levanim. It means that every day you should live as if you're going to die the next day. That's what Begadecha Levanim means. And it's talking about musar and doing tshuva and doing good deeds. But I'm taking it in another way. I'm taking it in a practical way. If we are parents and we want to be responsible, we want to be prepared that if something happens to us, that our children are going to know how to access our money, how to access our finances. And so you should be ready for this eventuality, just like you have a mamad in your house to protect you in case Iran drops a bomb on Renana. So you should also be ready in case something happens to you, and your kids are going to need to know where your money is. And of course, you want to keep track of it yourself. Okay. So what is a Bechol Eit Iyu Begadecha Levanim spreadsheet? Here is a suggestion. I did it in English, but my own personal one I do in Hebrew, but it doesn't matter. In the spreadsheet, you should write down what type of money it is. And I sort of started this off for you. Like I start off with a bank account and a pension fund. What is the name of the, sorry. Wait, I'm going back. Sorry, just a second. Okay. Okay, which bank is it at? What is the address? What is the branch number? What is the account number? Who should we contact to talk to? And what was the most recent balance? Okay, now I wrote here 31/12/20 because that just happened a month ago. And every year at the end of the year, make a sikum. You can get it from them because they send it to you or you access it online, and make a summary of how much you have at the end of each year. So I started off with your bank account and then your pension fund, but there's loads and loads and loads more that you can add here. You've got, for example, you've got funds from former employers, Kupat Gemel, overseas accounts, cash money that you might have. All of these things I want you to list on your Bechol Eit Yu Begadecha Levanim spreadsheet. And if you have a spouse, some people do and some don't, if you have one, this spreadsheet has to be for both. You have to put yours here and his, and it all has to be together so that each one knows where the other one's money is and which funds. This includes former employers that you might have had years ago. So don't forget where that money was from all the jobs that you had. You might be in several companies. All the information has to be here. Notice that I wrote here the passwords also. Oh, sorry again. The password of how to access these accounts. All this information should be in the spreadsheet with your
Mindy,
balance. Yeah.
We can't see your screen. We can't see your screen.
Can't see the screen. It says I'm screen.
No, we can. So maybe it's for you.
What?
Maybe you just pressed on someone's face and then it came up as yours, but I think the rest of us can see it.
Yeah.
No. If you're on your iPhone, just move it like to the side.
What do I have to do?
You don't need to
do nothing. You're fine.
You're fine.
Okay.
You're there.
Okay. So this is your information, your spouse's information.
I don't see.
And if you have loans and you owe people money, then you have to put that here also. That's money that has to be deducted from the total balance at the end of how much you are worth. Now, if your spouse doesn't agree to give you this information, then that's a very, very serious problem. It's called financial abuse. I'm sorry to use like really strong language, but you must be together on this. You must know everything that your spouse has because you're partners. And if there's any problem with that, then you really need to get help. And I'm sorry to say such a blunt thing, but women have come to me with this problem and they must get help. I'll tell you the truth that a few weeks ago in the Knesset, they were trying to pass a chok for alimut kalkalit, for financial abuse. And I wrote a blog in the Zman Yisrael, which is like Times of Israel, but in Hebrew, about why you have to educate women so that they don't get to a situation of financial abuse, okay? With it, an hour later, I got a WhatsApp to my phone that Harav Sherlo, who to me is like Gadol Hador, he shared my blog about women knowing about their finances, because women knowing about their finances is something that prevents financial abuse. It makes women more aware and less vulnerable to get into trouble later with their marriages. So I was just like bowled over by this share by Rav Sherlo. And that's why I think it's so important that I wanted to raise it up with you now, okay? Husbands, wives together on this spreadsheet. And another little story just I want to tell you is that last night on Channel 12 News, they showed a man going into the emergency with corona, and the nurse was being interviewed on the news, and he said that as the man was going in critical condition into the emergency, he calls out to the nurse and he says, "Bring in my son. I have to tell him where the money is."
Hi.
And he's going into critical condition. Now, ladies, everyone listening to this, don't wait till you're in critical condition. Do it now. Make the list now. Tell your kids where the spreadsheet is. And then you can be easy. You go on a trip, wherever you go, you know, if God forbid something happens to me, my kids know where to find the money. You don't want to leave them and having to find all this stuff. It's all over in all these different companies. You want to do that for them. So that's our responsibility as parents. Okay, now I want to go on to the next question, number 2 out of 3. I told you it's going to be 3 topics. Do you know your parents' financial situation? And here in this picture, I like this picture. It looks to me like Netanya, the Tayelet, right? So here is a nice retired couple sitting on the Tayelet in Netanya, and they are experiencing serenity. But is there really serenity? Have they really do their kids really know where their money is and how much they've got and who the lawyers are and where the will is? So in order to experience this serenity, people have to approach their parents and bring it up in case you haven't done it yet, and say to them, look, I want to sit down with you and I want to find out like what are all the details in case, God forbid, something happens to you. So I want to say also to people who don't have parents anymore because they've passed away, that there are billions of shekels in a place called, I think, Har HaKesef at Misrad HaOtzar, Ministry of Finance, of unclaimed bank accounts in Israel. And there's many people who inherited money or have dormant bank accounts into the billions of shekels waiting to be claimed. There's all kinds of things, even from the Second World War, money that was brought over here that was never claimed, donations that were made from people's wills. And there's a lot, even if your parents are gone, there's a lot of money that it pays to go online to Misrad HaOtzar and just have a look if there are things there that in your family that haven't been claimed. Also properties. Do you know that when I was in Pamonim and I was helping families in debt, every single family in debt had a property somewhere in Israel, and all these places all around Israel that they weren't renting out, that they weren't selling. It was just a matter of not claiming what was rightfully coming to them. Chaval. So anyway, getting back to your parents' situation, your action item is the following. Have an open conversation with your parents and make a spreadsheet for them as well. Make sure that if God forbid, when the day comes, that you know how to access all their money and their passwords and where is everything, and have it written down in the place. By the way, I forgot to tell you, these things have to be updated periodically because things change. The Sismoat change, your bank account moves to a different location, all kinds of things change. You should really do this every year. And also your will should be updated every year. Okay, now the third point that I want to bring up is this question. Have you figured out whether you have enough money to maintain your lifestyle until the end of your life? I know this is a really tough one because like everybody likes to, this is not talking about Corona era, obviously, but everyone likes to go on vacations and travel, go to restaurants with their friends and eat out and shop in shopping malls. And all that contributes to your standard of living and your lifestyle. However, if you're spending money and you're going to run out, then you're going to have a really, really big problem in your final years of life, in your golden years or your retirement years. And this problem is going to happen if you didn't figure it out in time. Okay, you can't just spend, and then hope everything's going to work out with your pension fund. Now, this is a really sore point. I've given a lot of talks to different groups on this topic, and a lot of people get really nervous and they say, Mindy, put the air conditioning on, open the windows, like they get really very, very lahutz because there were a lot of people that were not saving up through all the years for their pension funds. And that also includes people in business, because in Israel now there's a compulsory pension fund for people on salaries, but people who were in business all these years very often didn't put away money for their pension. And even people who were employees, the money that was put away from their pension is not enough. Now, I spoke in front of many groups of teachers, for example, and I asked them, do you know how much money you're going to get from your pension? And the answer they gave me was, Misrad HaChinuch yid'ag lanu, which means the Ministry of Education will worry about us. Well, come on, Ministry of Education isn't going to worry about anybody. You have to worry about yourself. And you have to look at your salary slips and look at your pension fund, your statements, and see exactly how much you've got. And it's not important how much you've got. It's a question of, can you maintain your standard of living? Do you have enough so that you're going to last till the end of your life without getting into trouble? Now, what does getting into trouble mean? It means, to me, it's just a personal thing. The worst thing would be to have to go to your own children for money. Now, this is a situation that is happening all over Israel. There are a lot of people who, when their kids got married, were pressured or bullied or I don't know what, into putting down money for an apartment for them. And then that was very generous. But then when these parents got into their 70s, 80s, they ran out of money. They didn't have enough money pensions. And the kids with those apartments that they bought now have to support their parents. They have to pay for the caregivers. They have to pay for them to go to the retirement homes and all the many, many costs that it costs to be elderly. So this giving of the apartments really backfired on families, and it continues to backfire on a lot of, and bring hardship to many, many people. So I think that we have to, I think in our culture, it's unanimous. I don't think anyone wants to be supported by their children ever. And in order to make sure that we don't have to be, we have to sit down and start figuring things out. So what is the action item going to be? The action item is calculate how much money do you spend per year? Okay, you have to know how much you spend. What is your lifestyle? Now, this is very simple to do. All you have to do is add up the column in your bank account of all the debits, you know, where it says zchut and chova, right? So chova, zchut is the money that comes in, but chova is the money you're spending, right? So go into your bank account, make it, export it into Excel, and just zoop the whole year, go from 1st of January to the end of December, and just do a very quick zip through Excel. And then the total of all the chovas, how much you spent that year. Okay, it's simple. It takes a couple of minutes. And then once you have the total, you're already advancing, because at least you know now how much you're spending on your standard of living. And then you have to figure out, well, am I going to, look at, you don't want to go down in your standard of living, but on the other hand, what if you don't have a choice? Because if we're all living longer than we ever used to, and Baruch Hashem, I'm hearing now more and more people, happy birthday, 90, 95, 100 people, Bezrat Hashem, we're going to live a long, long time. So we have to figure out, are we going to be able to generate income and maintain the standard of living until Ad Mea Ve'esrim? It's math. So we have to figure out how much we spend and whether is this going to be enough to last us for the rest of our lives. Okay, the consequences are enormous if we don't. So what do we do? If you do not have enough money to last your lifetime, so you need to cut back on your spending and stop giving your adult children money. Gewalt. That's why I put that emoji there, because we have to first take care of ourselves. We have to make sure we are independent. We have to make sure that towards the end of our lives, we're not being supported by our children. So in order to have that enough money for that, we have to make sure that we have figured this whole thing out and done the math, done the calculations, and adjusted our plan. Now in this picture, which I really like, you can see this beautiful swan and her little chickadees. That's a beautiful picture because the mother here, she's giving them so much love and she's protecting them and she's guiding them and she's with them and she's so much supporting them and so much loving them, but they're on their own. Do you see how they're not attached to her. They're not leeching onto her. They're in their own right. They are growing up as their own independent little chickadees swimming along her, and she's still there. You don't need to give your adult children money. They can swim for themselves. It's much more important to save it up and make sure that you have enough for yourself, because you know, there's this expression in Hebrew, la'azor la'yeladim, which is a euphemism for giving them money. But giving that money isn't necessarily helping them. You're helping them if you take care of yourself, because that way they are going to be able to live their lives and not have to support you when the time comes when you need to have support, caregivers and dior mugan and all the necessary treatments and tipulim and everything that goes into old age. So that is how you la'azor lahem, by making sure that you are taken care of and that you are independent. So to review, I want to review these action items. Number one, prepare a spreadsheet of all your assets. Tell your children where the spreadsheet is. Inform them of its location so that if, God forbid, you're pulled into a Chadar Miyun, you're not screaming out, the money's in Bank Leumi on Rehov Achuza, bye. You don't want to be there. Make a spreadsheet, Misudar. Tell the kids where it is. You don't have to show your kids how much money you have. You don't have to show them the spreadsheet, but you have to tell them that it's in this place, or it's in this, it's on the computer, in this file, or it's in the drawer, whatever. Just tell them where it is. They don't have to see it. Just tell them. Number two, get information on your parents' situation and get ready for the day that is coming ahead, okay? And number three, calculate for the years ahead, okay? And figure out exactly whether all the restaurants and all the vacations and everything, if that fits in, great. And if you can do all that and if you give money to your kids, great. But make sure first you took care of yourself and then give money to your kids. That's really, really, really super important. So to close off, I want to wish you all a long life, a of financial well-being. And I want to emphasize that I'm not a financial counselor, but I am a financial educator. So I don't sit with people and help them with their finances. I do know people that do, and I can recommend them. But if you connect to my vision and you want to help spread financial education to young people, then here are my contact details. And you can contact me with any ideas that to throw out about how we can really get out there to all the masses of young people, young women, and give them all this guidance so that they have a better life of financial independence.
Mindy, there was a question. Thank you very, very much. Somebody asked a question, how much you would recommend to put aside each month? How much, when you educate the kids, when you do your courses and they're preparing for life, what percentage do you tell them to put away of their salary to save?
That there's no blanket answer to that, because it depends on your standard of living. You know what I'm saying? It depends what your expectations are, how you want to live. You know, we saw, I don't know if you've been following, but like there's been a series going about the Haredim and how they live. They live very, very modestly. And, you know, it depends what your expectations are. There's no formula. It's something very, very individual on how you want to live, what's your standard of living. But the most important thing is to go by the rules. Like, don't spend more than you have, and they don't spend more than you earn. And also that husbands and wives have to be on the same page with all these expectations. Like, don't expect to, that, you know, we teach a lot of young girls with getting ready for marriage and everything. And you can't like have expectations that the guys cannot deliver. You have to be, you have to really, really be on the same page.
That was so interesting. Thank you.
It was really interesting. However much we all know, it's good to be reminded. Even if you answered yes to all your questions, it's still good to be reminded.
Very good, Mindy.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And stop it.